up here? If you get it where it's square, they're going to stand theirs here and be fine. You want to stand it here? Yes, ma'am. It will. That'll be good. Everybody ready? We're on? Good to go? Go. Today I want to announce the end of a long and somewhat tortuous litigation between the Secretary of State and Watkins Development, LLC. On June the 28th, the Mississippi Court of Appeals ruled that Watkins Development, LLC had violated 4 provisions of the securities laws of the state of Mississippi. Those were the proposals made by the Secretary of State, confirmed in an administrative hearing by a third party that had administrative hearing with Watkins Development, then confirmed again by the local courts here in Hinds County, and finally now by the Court of Appeals. And I want to go just a minute into what the facts were that involved this because it's pertinent for things going forward. In 2010, Watkins Development started a process to develop the Belk building at the Metro Center in the city of Jackson, Mississippi. As part of that, he enlisted several different individuals to co-invest with him, and those individuals placed some money up. A bond was arranged, and a bond in the amount of approximately $3 million was negotiated by Watkins Development. As it turned out, of the $3 million that was paid, construction costs were only slightly more than $900,000. After the start of Retro Metro, Watkins Development instituted and executed an arrangement in which it would be paid $1,125,000 as a fee. That particular agreement was signed for Retro Metro by Mr. David Watkins, and also for Watkins Development by Mr. David Watkins. He signed both sides of it. As the project proceeded, we then determined that at the time, or shortly after the time of the closing on the bonds, within just a couple of months, approximately $587,084 was transferred from Retro Metro to an entity owned by Mr. Watkins in Meridian, Mississippi. That entity was known as the Meridian Law Enforcement Center, LLC, LLC formed in the state of Mississippi. That entity was owned solely by Mr. Watkins, is our understanding. So the funds that were to be utilized to repair and make available to the city of Jackson and the Belk building at Metro Center were utilized for and expended for the acquisition of the Meridian Police Department. At that time, shortly thereafter, the bonds defaulted, and these actions were brought by the Secretary of State to recover the bonds. We also accused these various activities of misleading the individuals making these loans, as well as the individuals who were investors with Watkins Development and Retro Metro. Those included 4 different charges by the Secretary of State's office, which included failure to disclose material information. For example, the $1.1 million arrangement between Retro Metro and Watkins Development. Further, the misuse of the funds of $587,000 in funds that went to a separate arrangement in a totally different city in Meridian, Mississippi for a police department. Those activities were upheld by the Mississippi Court of Appeals on Monday morning. In that, the Mississippi Court of Appeals has ordered and confirmed our charges totaling approximately $75,000 in fines. $25,000 is the maximum fine amount for each of these charges. In addition, they have ordered $587,084 to be returned as restitution to Retro Metro. We informed the now partners of Retro Metro of this yesterday afternoon, and they had already been informed by their lawyers of this matter. You have a statement from one of them, Leroy Walker, that's included in your package as his position on this matter. We are hopeful this brings the matter to a close, and I'll answer questions. But I want to talk to you about why this is important. It is important in Mississippi for people who are trusting others with their investment dollars to be satisfied that those investment dollars are being spent as they are represented to them. It is also very important for people to be able to raise capital in Mississippi. After the Dodd-Frank law, it is very difficult for small businesses, startup businesses, whatever they may be, to raise capital in our state. You can't simply get a loan anymore. We used to have loans in Mississippi on character. Now they're strictly on paper. So our many Mississippians who want to start a business, start a small business, don't have access to capital. If they're going to have access to capital, it has to be in a safe, secure, and fully informed manner. That's why you see us get after issues like this. Not only national issues, as you know, we prosecuted Morgan Keegan and collected $200 million for people who were misled by Morgan Keegan. But it's just as important to keep up with the individuals right here in Mississippi that are investing our funds. Small businesses are going to have to turn to other individuals collectively through an LLC to be able to handle an investment. That's the only way we're going to progress in Mississippi. Over half our people are really employed by small businesses here. That economic engine is critical to Mississippi's future. And when we go out and ask other individuals for funds to be able to start a business or repair a business or move the city of Jackson's water department or whatever, they need to have confidence that that individual will fully disclose all the matters that were pertinent in making that investment. That's why this is important. This case will be one that our office will rely on in the future. We will rely on to make sure that everybody is straight up with what they do and what they say every time they ask somebody for money. And then it goes to the right place, not a different city. So with that, I will answer any questions. Marcia, we can start with you.
Would you define this a case of overall fraud by David Watkins?
This was held by the Court of Appeals of Mississippi to be securities fraud.
Do you know of any pending criminal prosecution
I
that
do
may
not.
come from this? Have you forwarded it to any law enforcement?
I have not. This case started, I think, in 2012, so it's been ongoing about 3 or 4 years, so I would assume that anybody that wanted to know anything about it, it's been fully briefed in the press. We've been to a public hearing, administrative hearing in our office. We've been to a hearing at the court here in Hinds County, and now we've been to the Court of Appeals, so everybody knows whatever they know. It's all out here.
What's the time frame for Watkins to pay these fines and pay the $587,000? I think it was almost $600,000 with taxpayer money.
$587,000 was the exact amount of money that was transferred to buy the Meridian Police Department.
Right.
That's why the restitution. We intend to pursue that immediately.
What is the time frame for that?
As soon as y'all leave, I guess, you know.
No, I mean to collect. Is there a deadline?
No, that money is owed just like you would owe on any other debt, and so our attorneys, which is the Attorney General's office, will pursue the collection of those funds from Watkins Development, and Mr. Watkins is on this individually.
Mr. Secretary, the $3 million, when you say that was a bond, who put that money up?
An out-of-state bond company, I think it was Williams and something.
So that was a private placement money?
That is correct.
That money was raised and pledged by private individuals or by a government entity?
No, you have a bond company that issued the bond, and you have private individuals, and this is unusual. You'll see this in the pleadings. At the time that the bond was closed, approximately $400,000 was repaid to some 6 individuals. Those 6 individuals, some of them did not even put up $1,500 to own their percentage. So there was, in addition to this, there were $400,000 of the additional funds drawn down on the bond were issued out to investors. So there was some minor amount of capital put up. I think it was around $40,000 on this project by individual investors. And then, in addition to that, these bonds were put together in a private placement memorandum issued by the Mississippi Business Development Corporation.
And the facility in Meridian, does Mr. Watkins still own that today?
It's my understanding that he does, but I haven't confirmed that.
Did the $587,000 come out of his $1 point something million fee that he paid himself?
No.
It was
In
out of the
addition,
other.
he paid other fees to himself as well. That's in the numbers here, and you'll see the actual dollar numbers. The amount of actual construction costs found by the court at the time of the bond issuance was approximately $959,000, and the actual amount that was drawn down on the bond was $3,050,000.
Do you believe Mr. Watkins has the capability to pay these amounts?
I'm very hopeful. We'll find out.
Mr. Secretary, just anecdotally, I know in years past you've had a lot of securities cases, really gone after a bunch of them. Here recently, it doesn't appear that there's that many pending or coming out. Do you have more in the works, or is there some shift, or are people just doing better?
Of course, I can't discuss any that are under administrative review, but you should anticipate that we have others under administrative review. We have an ongoing process, and our group goes out to individuals who raise or hold more than $100 million in investments in Mississippi. There are 24 to 29 of those. I have required my security staff to go to each and every one of them every year. So we go look at it. I believe that, and as part of the Republican platform, which I'm co-chair of the platform on debt, the economy, and jobs, I intend to propose as part of that the Dodd-Frank requirements be raised to a factor of $10 billion. Everything below $10 billion, community banks in Mississippi would not be subject to their requirements. The reason for that is to come back to this capital issue, that we have to have capital in small business in Mississippi. We can't survive otherwise. We don't have enough capital ourselves. Our banks are actually about 69% loaned up, so we have a lot of room for capital expansion in Mississippi. We are finding more and more of these private equity arrangements, to be quite frank with you, and less with the national security groups. That's maybe, Jeff, quite frankly, because the market's gone up. So even, everybody's made money, so there's no complaints. When it goes down, we'll find out who was not being accurate with their investors. So I think we turn now to arrangements like this, $3 million deals, $5 million deals, individuals soliciting funds from a dozen or half a dozen people and going to do an investment in one area and find it out it didn't take place. So our office will be very active in those. Because of Dodd-Frank and because of the lending requirements on the bank, I do anticipate that we will have more private equity raised in Mississippi now from individuals who may have been successful or sold their business or have their retirement plan already in place. So you should anticipate we will be doing more of that.
I mean, this state's had a decades-long problem with capital, right? Venture capital.
It has. It has. And we started our website. We started crowdfunding. We've had a couple of people looking at that, where you can raise $1 million to offset that. But it hasn't caught on like I wanted it to, Jeff, quite frankly. It's available. If you skip all the securities laws by going to crowdfunding and filling out a page on our website, we then bless all of your investors so you won't have any problem with it. But that hadn't caught on. Our banks, as I told you, are 69% loaned up. We have room there. They feel like they are hamstrung by the regulatory environment. And so I think naturally people are looking to their neighbor down the street or their dad or somebody that they know when they play golf with or something to give them money and to start an idea. And Mississippi has a lot of really great entrepreneurs here, and you see them like different ones that FMC thing sold for $400 million. In Oxford, it's 3 professors start out with nothing. So you see some of those rising, but others failing.
The property in Meridian, has it been seized? Will it be seized?
It would depend on whether or not Mr. Watkins pays $587,000 plus $75,000 in penalties. We intend to pursue the collection of the restitution and the penalties, as it says. Anything else? Thank y'all for coming. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Who are the other principals currently in Retro Metro besides?
Howard Catchings, Leroy Walker, and Socrates Garrett. Y'all have a safe 4th of July. I have sandwiches for everybody.